All right, good morning. Welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It's a late start to a Monday. Still trying to get some things figured out from yesterday. But anyway, good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great Monday. Happy St. Patrick's Day to those of you that, I don't know, even do anything with this day. I don't even know what you do anymore. But let's kick some things off this morning. We had some breaking news last night. I don't know why my video didn't upload. But there was big news out of Cincinnati last night, and you're darn right, that does impact what the Detroitlions could potentially be doing. It could be impacting what the Cincinnati Bengals are about to do. And we're going to talk a little bit about it this morning. Try to clear the decks on that right away. That way we can kind of move on from it. I'm still kind of in the boat that I'm wondering if anything's going to happen here. Like, is there even really a big opportunity that is missed right now? I mean, let's just, you know what? Let's just get into it. Let's just do that. Let's just get into the breaking news from last night. Let's pause for 10 seconds. So I'll do a quick audio check. Be right back. Okay, we're back. We're rolling. We're all good. So last night, let's get into it. Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins contracts are finally done. I can't believe that the Bengals pulled this off, to be honest with you. These are big deals. This is like 2 Amon-Ra St. Brown contracts. So you typically don't see 2 wide receivers on the same team getting paid this kind of money, and a quarterback that has a pretty darn good contract as well. It's unheard of in the NFL. So they're prioritizing offense in a league, right, where pass rush or defense is supposed to win it all, which is not true. They're prioritizing offense. Offense wins football games. It really does. I mean, I know you heard, at the end of last season, you heard Jalen Hurts say the defense wins championships. That's the old way. Maybe he believes that because his defense had a really good season. They had a really good defense. But you can draft offense and win right away. And with the Bengals right now, they're clearly saying that, hey, we're going to stick with the offense because right now we believe in our offense a little bit more than our defense. Let's get these guys locked up. And that's exactly what they did. So as first reported last night, about 10:25-ish or whatever, I got the alert that Jordan Schultz said that Chase had agreed to terms on a 4-year, $161 million deal, which now makes him the most expensive player in the NFL. He is the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. So he just edged out Myles Garrett by $1 million or $250,000 a year. And then Higgins, right behind him, is set to sign his new deal for 4 years at $115 million. I mean, my goodness. I mean, that's almost an Amon-Ra St. Brown deal, which is about $30 million a year. It's just shy. So you've got $70+ million on 2 wide receivers. What are they thinking? I'm good with it. Like, I'm clearly okay with it. Let them do it. How are they going to be able to bring in more players? That's going to be the biggest question. Are they going to be able to re-sign now and extend Trey Hendrickson? Or do they have a big enough, trade value? Did a team offer enough for Trey Hendrickson? Hell, it's St. Patrick's Day. Are the Lions going to get lucky today? I don't know. Is that if you see a rainbow in Detroit today, I'm just saying, there might be a pot of gold somewhere in Allen Park. Could be. All right, so anyway, last night, Jordan Schultz said that Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins exclusively tell me that they've agreed to contract extensions with the team. The Jamar gets 4 years, 161, $112 million guaranteed. Wow, that's a big deal. And then T obviously teed it up with 4 years, 115. It's big news. So the plan to retain both Chase and Higgins has been years in the making, according to this report, that once the 21 season wrapped with a trip to the Super Bowl, the Bengals knew that both of their stud wideouts were going to prioritize, or were going to be priorities, to keep them around. Many teams to this day are searching for genuine number one wide receivers. Cincinnati managed to draft 2 in back-to-back years. You pretty much never see that happen, which it's very true. You don't see that happen. The road to get right here since that memorable 21 season has not been ideal. And negotiations with Higgins couldn't even officially begin until the 2023 offseason, and Chase had to wait another year for his turn to face the hardball negotiation tactics that the Bengals deploy. Now, both waited longer than they should have, but both are now making more than they could have as well, which, I mean, this increase of salary cap is clearly benefiting these two guys. Now, despite both deals getting done being the reasonable expectation for any franchise, there are aspects of each of them that point to some progress being made by the people who run the club. Now, I don't know about all that. Bengals couldn't afford to keep waiting on Chase. No one who spent more than 5 seconds thinking on the situation ever truly believed that the Bengals wouldn't eventually pay Chase. He's on track to being the greatest receiver in franchise history. If there was going to be a non-quarterback to earn future guarantees in his market resetting deal, it was going to be the first player to ever wear the number 1 jersey for Cincinnati. So what does this mean here? What's their intent next? I'm not going to go through all of this, but you can find this on A to Z Sports. John Sheeran, about 9 hours ago is when this came out. So, what's next for Cincy? I have a question for him. How are you going to do this? You know what? Let me go back to that. Let me go back to that screen. How are you going to do this? How are you going to break him off with $31.5 million for Trey Hendrickson? Or $35 million? Or even $28 million? Or $25 million? I mean, if you get a little bit lower, then yeah, you could probably make the deal work, but that's the next deal that they have to get done. I don't see it happening. Right now, their team cap space, which you can't see on the screen. It's adjusted a little bit left there. Let me see if I can fix that for us real quick. Sorry, after I got the computer back, I noticed last night that they forgot something pretty big. I'm not looking forward to going back, but I'm not doing it today. So when you look at their cap space right now, $26.8 million. They still have to sign their rookies this year. And where's Cincinnati picking? They've got to be middle of the pack, I think. So they're probably $14 million or so on their rookie deals. So that leaves them, some play money, that in case something happens. I'm sure they still have some other free agents that they'd like to sign, or some of their own free agents. They already have 69 on the roster, which is good, right? So they're already in position to hit camp. They already have a full team assembled. So maybe the other 21 football players that they're going to bring in as rookies, UDFAs, maybe a couple more free agents. So I think that they're sitting pretty well. The last 21 contracts are really not going to hit. Well, let me take that back. Their first, second, and third round contracts will be more than $1 million, but the rest of the contracts will probably be under $1 million this year, or vet minimum, or very close to. So they should be, and they won't even count towards the top 51 anyway. So they're going to be in good shape there. How are you going to get Trey Hendrickson done? How are you going to get that done with $26 million? Looking at 26, they've got a ton of cap space right now in 2026. And to be honest with you, 2025, when you look at T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they have a base salary here. They have what they consider to be a cap number of 26 and 21 million, but there's nothing else in here right now. We don't have any options, no signing, nothing. There's nothing in here right now to kind of finish out this number. So we really don't know what that number is going to be. And Trey, he's set to make the fourth most on the roster right now at 18.7 million. 18.7 million right here to your right here. that number is supposed to grow to 30 million-ish per year. But when you do a new contract, typically this number will stay the same this year, and then next year that contract would change. So can it realistically get done? I would say the answer is yes. I think realistically the Cincinnati Bengals could get the deal done. How does it affect your Detroit Lions, though? If the Cincinnati Bengals feel that they have bigger needs elsewhere, that there's other guys on this roster that they're looking towards the future with, which I couldn't even answer that question right now because I haven't done a deep dive on the Bengals roster and their drafting over the last few seasons. I couldn't tell you who their mix of core players are outside of Joe, T, Jamar, Trey, Orlando Brown, BJ Hill, Jermaine Pratt, which I thought Jermaine Pratt was up for trade as well. Or maybe he was already traded. So they know they have a handful of guys, but I would say that the Bengals, if they value Trey Hendrickson, they're now they have to get a deal done. And they just made their wide receiver the most expensive player in the NFL, and that's not going to happen with Trey. They're not going to be able to put two max deals together on one team. I don't think any team can do it. Matter of fact, I know two players can't do it. There's just not possible. There's no way that you can afford to pay. I mean, let's be realistic here. Joe Burrow, $55 million. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, $70 million. It's $120 million out of a $280 million cap. By the time you add Trey Hendrickson in there, if you were to get $35 million, you're already 50% spent, more than 50% spent on the salary cap. And you still have 47 more guys to keep happy for your top 51 at least. So that's what we're up against. And that's why when we talk about this morning, what does it mean for the Detroit Lions? How are the Detroit Lions going to be able to effectively bring in a second top-tier pass rusher and pay Aiden Hutchinson? It's never been part of the plan because it doesn't work fiscally. I mean, I know we don't use checkbooks anymore. Maybe some people still do, but when you balance your checkbook at the end of the day, you know damn well you can't throw just another double expense in there, right? You can't double up your expenses and at the end of the month have a surplus, right? If you're operating at the same budget, if you double up your expense, there's no way that you're going to come out at the end of the month ahead. Same applies for a Detroit Lions franchise or any other NFL franchise. You can't double up your expenses and expect to be able to compete, expect to be able to fill the team that has, enough football players to actually compete at a high level. And I'm not saying it can't work for a season, right? It could work for one season. It absolutely could. I just don't see it working long term. And Peter, that's exactly what I'm saying, buddy. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's why it doesn't really mean squat. I don't think that Brad Holmes ever was considering this. I mean, he told us, for all the people that listen to all of the riffraff that is being said in this community, not our community here, but the Detroit Lions community, it's just garbage, right? I mean, it's wishful thinking. It's the same rhetoric that you guys have been hearing for years that has never been right. If you want to break a team, go ahead and go sign another $40 million edge rusher. This team will be broken in a matter of 2 seasons. You won't be able to keep anyone. All your core players are going to be on the way out. And then you're going to be right back to the Matt Millen days, and we're going to be doing an orange out marching down Brush Street. That's what'll happen. And I don't think that we want that. You know what I'd rather have? I'd rather have another 15-2 season and exit in the first round. But at least I know that the next season, the Lions have enough wherewithal and enough cap space to be able to make some moves to make the team better like they did this year. And then moving forward, we're in a loaded draft this year, people. Like, it's loaded. Everything that you've wanted. If you wanted a pass rusher, if you wanted elite defensive tackles, if that's what you've been waiting for the last 4 seasons, you're going to get it this season. This is when you're going to see the double up, which I call roster roulette. Year 1, you take Aiden in 2022. 4 years later, or 4 seasons later, you definitely have to backfill that because you're going to extend him. This is the season when you do it. It makes perfect sense. If Brad Holmes does not take an edge rusher in the first 2 rounds, I might as well not even come on the next day because I totally missed the boat. Unless he takes offensive lineman, which then I guess that would make sense too because you're backfilling behind Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell. It kind of fits. And that would be back to 2021's roster roulette plan. So it kind of fits, but they've also taken a few football players, mid rounds that they've gambled on with like Manu and Mahogany. Mahogany so far has worked out. All right, so good morning to everybody in the chat. Let's get it in. Brandy Coffee won last night. The mini helmet. And by the way, once we got off, subscribership started soaring. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being part of the Rockdown Detroit Lions. Appreciate every single day that you guys decide to rock with me because I am the true Rock. I know other people try to play on my name and try to steal things from me. It's all good. It's all good. But I appreciate each and every single one of you guys and ladies. You've made the best Lions community a part of my everyday. And I can't thank you enough for that. But please smash that subscribe button, hit that like button real quick, and we'll get the ads turned off this morning. We just like to get to 75 ads. We try to get there before 9 a.m., and then the last hour we go ad-free if you guys don't have YouTube Premium. It's a big benefit to you. Like I say, it costs us quite a bit of money that we can't donate to the Rockdown Cancer Foundation, but it's a fair trade, right? We want to give you guys the most seamless content possible each and every day. So that's our gift to you. Who else do we have in here this morning? Mike P's in the house. Trace, of course, holding it down. Jay Cruisin, Derek Lewis, Mike P, J-Rod, Warren King, Motown Mitch, Peter Van Larhoven, Kevin Barr. Where were you talking about post-dating what? We post-dating a check? Yeah, right. Remember when that stuff used to fly? Hey, can I just post-date this like 10 days? And that was like 20 years ago. Post-dating checks. Yeah, I'd love to post-date some mail is what I'd like to do. Can I just get this stamped today, but I'm going to send it out in 2 months, like the nasty lawyers like to do? They try to use their own postage machines and then they don't put it in the mail. I know a lawyer that does that. One of these days, I'm going to out his ass. I can't stand him. John Desage, good morning. Big Papa's in the house. What else we have? We have a lot of people in. If you guys aren't in the chat, and if I missed your name, it's not by purpose. I'm just rolling through a few here. Yeah, the good old days. 25 years ago, I was just saying that the other day. Like, I miss growing up, in the 80s and the 90s. Like, you just jump on your bike and go wherever you want to go. You didn't worry about some possible, I'm not even going to say the T word, living next to you or down the road or, some weirdo or whatever. It's like we just did whatever we wanted to do. We had no, maybe that was our downfall. Like we had no care in the world. We just did whatever we wanted to do. At least where I grew up, pretty safe, pretty safe. And we had some bad areas too, but pretty safe. There was nothing like pedaling 3-4 miles, right? Getting your exercise. And I think that's why we were a little bit built different. On the football field, on the baseball diamond, it's like, we were constantly pedaling our asses everywhere, staying in shape. So anyway, big news last night. I still can't get over the fact that they got these big deals done. And I'm not going to say it has anything to do with the Lions, but I will say this. If there's any inkling of an opportunity right now for the Lions to get something done with a Trey Hendrickson, it's right now. This is it. The window's open. And I think that window closes after the draft. I think that's it. I think between now and the draft, that's it. If something doesn't get done with day one of Trey Hendrickson on day one, it's not going to happen. I can't imagine that they would move him post the draft and then forego an opportunity in this year's draft to secure some edge rushers. Let's flush it out a little further. Matter of fact, where are the Bengals picking? Oh, wow. They've got picks 17 and 49. I guarantee you the Bengals are going to take an edge rusher with their first pick at 17. And they may even try to move around, especially if they haven't gotten rid of Trey Hendrickson yet. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense to me for them right now is an edge rusher. At 17, they have the pick of the litter. Last time they took a player at pick 17 was Dre Kirkpatrick, cornerback. And then before that, they selected offensive tackle Amarius Mims. But this year, with a loaded defensive tackle and defensive edge draft that it is, it only makes sense that they're going to backfill Trey Hendrickson in the wake of him leaving, potentially, right? Or this is his last season under contract, if he sits out or if he doesn't. But this is the opportunity. If the Lions ever were thinking that this was going to be a possibility for them, what would it take? Though the rumor is it's a first-round draft pick. They want a first. If I'm the Lions, I'm saying, okay, cool. I do want to go in all this year. I want to go all in for a little bit all in. One player. His contract's $18 million. Okay. You know damn well you're not bringing Trey in unless you re-sign him to an extension. So what are you willing to give up if you got to pay the guy $30 million a year? Can you fit it in the cap? You can. For one season, you could. You absolutely could. Next year, you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. That's where Amon-Ra and Jared Goff, they're going to have to restructure their contracts. Without a doubt. Has to be done. If you bring in a guy like Trey, that has to be done. You don't have any other money anywhere. There's no way you can get it done otherwise, is what I'm trying to say. So, I would be willing to give up a 2026 first and maybe a 2025 fourth or fifth, but I wouldn't be giving up this year's first. There ain't no way. There's no way that I'm going to walk away from one of these elite defensive ends that is coming out of this draft. There's no way I'm walking away from that. If you somehow, like we talked about it last night, we went through the top 15. Again, appreciate, 250 people that we had in last night going through the top 15 with me. If you somehow land a guy like Jared Ivey late in the second, early in the third, that's a win. If you get a guy like, Kyle Kennard late in the second, that's a win. These guys have all the makings of becoming great rotational guys at a minimum and pretty damn good starters within a couple of seasons. But if you land someone like Shamar Stewart, who is still raw, who I mocked and comped to Myles Garrett weeks ago. At the combine, I wrote down Myles Garrett right next to his name after watching the guy move. And that's who I expect him to be similar to, right? But it's going to take 2 or 3 seasons for him to finally allow it to all click. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it all happens in year 1. Maybe he lands with the Lions and Calvin Shepard just knows how to get the guy going. So we get one of these guys. Our team is solid. It's already solid. We're going to run it back with the same squad that we had last season for a reason, right? This is a season for a reason. That's going to be a t-shirt. Look for it coming out today. Season for a reason. Anyway, I'll move off of this. I'm not going to pound the drum all day on this because I honestly don't feel like there's anything to it. But if something were to happen, now's the time. So, good morning, Eric. How you doing this morning? You must be on your way back. I hope your trip went well. I was going to try to make it down to Jackson, just wasn't in the cards this weekend. But looks like Eric had a good show out there. So Lions news. Let's get to some Lions news. Lions predicted to land a stunner in this draft. I kind of talked about it last night, but this came out. Let's see, who wrote this? I don't know. Some viral sports news. I'm not even sure who this is, but they had some good things to say. It looks like it was Yardbarker. That the Detroit Lions were one of the NFL's most dominant teams in 2024 during the regular season, which we were. Given all the injuries that we had, I don't think anyone expected us to be the team that we were or ended up being. Obviously, we failed to meet the expectation in the playoffs, and I don't think that anyone is surprised by the fact that now that we know what we know, right? And I was saying it before the game even happened. Don't blitz. Just don't blitz, please. Just don't do it. We blitz. That's what killed us, right? But secondly, or even firstly, I think what hurt this Lions team was all the injuries. Emiko's down very early. That's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Enough is enough, right? when you have Kirby playing corner, the day's over. It's done. And even if we win against the Washington Commanders, we're done the next week anyway. There was no way we were beating the Eagles with that team as decimated as it is. And I know you don't usually hear that from me. I'm just trying to be honest with you. There's no way we were going to match up against that. Offensively, sure. But if you can't get some defensive stops, and now you're down to your last corner, which is a rookie, we're in trouble. Kendall Vildor, come on. Like, he's good in spaces for short periods. That's it. Not for an entire game against Devonta Smith, right? So the Lions definitely have been busy in free agency re-signing the team from last season. Why wouldn't you want the team that just held their feet to the fire for pretty much 9 games and you had no idea what was going to happen week to week? We kept losing players every single week. By week 14, you've got, was it 14 or 16 guys on IR? Defense, right? I think it was 14, 16 total, including a couple of offensive players. And Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, lose him week 6. Team was decimated. Why wouldn't you want to run it back with these guys that have all that experience? And I think that it was a very smart play by Brad Holmes. You've heard me say it now all weekend long, that the plan was the plan going into the free agency period to do nothing. Like, he was going to stand down and do his thing. And he did. And I don't think that there's a lot of fans right now, outside of a few, that think that Brad made a bad move. Hell, I've even heard Woodward saying that Brad made some good moves over the past weekend. If I'm hearing that from them, I even wrote it on a comment. I happened to be listening to him while I was waiting at the cancer doctor's office, right? While I was over there, the hematology office. While I was over there, I'm listening to Woodward, and I'm like, what did I just hear? I can't believe I just heard that from them. Like, they're actually giving Brad some praises. Now, not all of the guys, but whoever I was listening to, I can't remember the name, Neil maybe. I don't listen to him often, but it got too negative for me. So, in this recent 7-round mock draft that was put together by Brad Behrman, he shockingly put a defensive lineman to the Lions early. And I don't know how he ended up with Shamar Stewart in the 2nd round. I can't imagine Shamar Stewart's going to end up in the 2nd round. I think that's totally crazy. But anyway, here's a quote. It says, quote, an NFL personnel evaluator told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that Stewart stamped himself as the best player at the Senior Bowl. Stewart is listed as an edge, but he is scheme versatile and could end up easily, and could easily line up across the defensive front in the NFL. He could be what the Lions hoped Josh Paschal would be and what Onwuzurike did become last season. I don't agree with this, right? I believe in what Shamar Stewart could be, but I don't see him as a defensive tackle, and I don't see him as an inside-outside guy. This guy's pure edge all day, outside. Doesn't mean you can't put him on the inside. Doesn't mean that you can't do stunts and twists and slam the guy, up against some guards that he's had great success with, the smaller stature of the guards versus the bigger, tackles in the, college ranks that he went up against. He ate up the guards. He's a freak athlete. He's on the freaks list for a reason. But Shamar Stewart, he's been one of my highest mocks along with Landon Jackson to the Detroit Lions. And I think that this article is right, that you bringing in a guy that is 6'6". He's not 290 pounds. I don't know why they listed him as 290 pounds. He's 264 right now. Yeah, he could get back up to 275, 280, but I think that's why he's pure edge. He's not going to be on the line. We have Wingo and Paschal for that. But right now, I want to make sure that we understand one thing about this Lions team. Davenport is not your starter right now on the outside. It's Josh Paschal. And I think until those guys go head-to-head this summer, no one's going to know who that starter is, even after the draft. Like, you bring in a guy like Shamar or Landon or whomever the Lions land, those guys have to compete as well. It's not going to be a first-round rookie that just gets to start because it was a first-round rookie. We know how Brad and Dan and Calvin Shepard are. They're going to play the best football player, not the first-round draft pick. They don't care where you're drafted. They don't care how much money you're making. You've got to beat the guy in front of you. And I love that about this team, because it's not about names and faces, right? It's about the Jimmies and the Joes right? Not like they always say, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. Like, we don't care about the zeros on your bank account. We don't care. All right? We don't care where you're drafted. Get in there, beat these guys, and show us you can do it. Day in and day out. Not one day, right? We don't want a flash in the pan, right? We want an iron that's hot, that stays hot. We want to brand these guys, that with elite physical ability that they're already bringing into the NFL and make sure that they can keep it going at a high level. So I think Shamar makes a lot of sense. God, if he's there at 28, I don't know how he ended up there. Honestly. Last night I had him as my number 5 overall end. Number 5. Good morning, Elizabeth LaValle. She asked if I'm still high on Nick Scourton. I am. I absolutely am. My only thing right now, which I explained last night, is that we don't have all the measurables yet. So we have pro days getting kicked off this week. Michigan is on the 21st, which I believe is Friday. So we'll have some opportunity to see, the rest of the numbers coming in for like Josiah Stewart and everybody else. Once we get the rest of the numbers, now the tape is everything. You can make a decision right now based on tape. But for me, because I don't have all of the tape that the NFL has, now I do have subscriptions where I'm able to get a lot of different cut-ups on different players, which are great. It's a lot of information. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to get the NFL tape, even though I have a license. I don't know if I'll be able to get it. I should probably find out. I should probably make a call today. Point being, I need to see what they do 40-wise and everything else, even though I don't care about the 40, the 10 split, the 3 cone, all that stuff. I need to see what they do. Now, I watched them at the combine, right? I watched them doing, all the drills that they do and what guys did well, what guys didn't do well. But when your shoes keep flying off, it's kind of hard to say, man, was he going to stay low? Was he going to make the turn? Was he going to stay on his feet? You don't know. A lot of guys were slipping. It wasn't just Nick. It was a lot of guys were slipping that day. A lot of guys were losing shoes. So I just have to see a little bit more so I can finish my spreadsheet, which is massive. It's now 26 pages. I mean, it's more than that, but it's 26 pages. I got every position almost done. But last year, using my sheet, that's how I was able to say Jared Verse was going to be the best overall edge rusher in the draft, and Jaden Daniels is going to be the best overall quarterback. The sheet worked. So I'm hoping it works even more this year. So draft strategy, all right? I think that if the Lions are predicted to land someone or steal in this draft, that steal would probably happen in the second round. I don't think there's going to be a steal in the first round unless somebody somehow slips. But I think that the steal is going to happen in the second round. If the Lions don't move up and we somehow get somebody at 60 that doesn't belong there, like the Lions seem to do every year, great. But I want to see Brad on the attack this year. Kind of like what he was last season. I want to see him on the offense, not defense here. I want to see him moving, right? Either you're backing out of the first to gain draft picks to move forward in the second, or you're moving way up into the first, probably at 20 or better, to be able to grab the guy that you know is going to be what you're hoping he's going to be. So with draft strategy, I think the analysts always speculate, that the Lions are really well positioned right now to make a stunning steal in this draft. I think that we have enough draft capital between now and next year and the third year in 27. You don't see a lot of third year comp, or draft assets going out, but it does happen. It's rare, but it does happen. But to acquire a player that would significantly impact the Lions' success in 2025, I feel that player comes in round 1 and round 2. We know that round 3, these guys barely play. League-wide, 15% or less, third-round picks play. So even beyond that, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, I'm not interested in them. I think that those are great depth guys. Those are guys that are more so projects, take a little bit of time to develop. Yeah, you end up with a Kirby every once in a while. You might have an Amon-Ra every once in a while, but that is highly the exception, not the rule, right? Those guys don't come around very often. And when you see those guys slipping in the draft, like Brian Branch, that was a huge steal. But Brad was on the offense. He saw his guy slip in the draft. He jumped ahead of Green Bay, and he nailed them. So I want to see that out of Brad this year. I want to make sure my point is very loud here that I want Brad to be moving. I don't want him sitting and waiting for anything to fall to him. He needs to go after it. Give up some draft capital. Look, if we can't bring guys in free agency, what is that telling you? There's no spots left on this team. And honestly, when you look at the roster, I keep pointing at my screen like it's right in front of me. When you look at the roster, there's nowhere to squeeze somebody in right now. There really isn't. The roster's solid. You know what? Let's just pull it up since I keep pointing at it. Why don't I just pull the damn thing up? I went through that. It's also in this article here. If you guys didn't get a chance to look at it, I think most of it's correct what I put together. There's a couple of things that obviously happened during camp and, some things going on with the 53 that at the end of last year or the beginning of the year, it was kind of weird, because the injuries and everything that the Lions had to deal with. It was kind of weird the way that they had to make some things happen because of the IR rules. Let me find this article here. And I appreciate you guys visiting Detroit Football Journal. I started writing again. I know I took a long hiatus, but I had to start writing again because I write every day. I write millions of words every year. And I usually just speak them here in the morning shows or the other shows that I do. I don't put it out there anymore. So I decided to start writing again so that, I get sick of people trying to say that, this person copies me or this person copies this person or whatever. I'm original. Everything I do is fairly original. We talk about the same stuff when it comes to moves that are being made, but every day I write my own shows and now you're able to see it. So that article right there, it outlines last year's defensive line to this year's defensive line. What did I miss in the chat? We have a St. Patty's Day troll somewhere in the house. Did I miss it? Ads off? Gotcha. One sec. Coming at you. There you go. Come on. Turn off. 8:56 a.m. Ads are now off. Appreciate you guys. Congratulations on hitting the likes. I didn't miss anything. That's good. I can't always watch the chat when I got all these different things going on. So anyway, I just threw that in the chat so you can read it later. Also, it gives you an opportunity to subscribe to the Detroit Football Journal. It's free right now. Everything that I'm putting out is free, so it doesn't cost you a thing. I will change, how much we charge for it because, I'm not a Justin Rogers. I'm not going to charge more than a Justin Rogers. I'm not even close to a Justin Rogers. So I'll make sure that the content is commensurate to how much it costs to get access to this stuff. All of it just benefits the Cancer Foundation anyway. That's where everything goes. Which hopefully this spring we'll be able to announce a few things, and I've got to get cooking here on the golf tournaments. If you guys want to join the golf tournaments, I'll put the information out in the next week or so. I mean, like spring's almost here, so we got to get rolling with it. So anyway, analysts speculated the Lions are now well positioned to make a stunning steal. And like I said, when we look at the Lions depth chart, here's what we're looking at on the defense. So we're expecting Aiden to be Aiden. Okay, so you don't have a spot there. Aleem is going to take a little bit of time to get back. Well, you've already backdoored that with Levi Onwuzurike. I think that's a great move. And then you also followed that up with Roy Lopez. And then you also have Broderick Martin that's kind of waiting to show us who he's going to be this season. Now, Roy and Broderick are also more of the nose tackle position. So I would probably put Levi and then Mekhi Wingo and then Miles Adams behind Aleem McNeil, and I'd put Roy Lopez and Broderick Martin behind DJ Reader. Either way, defensive tackle, solid. We just need a really good rookie. Josh Paschal at right defensive end. He is now listed as the starting right defensive end. This is the first time that I've seen that listed that way by ESPN, so they're obviously thinking the same way that I am right now, that he is our starting right defensive end right now. I think that is accurate. And I think that it is his position to lose right now. Marcus Davenport is your backup to Josh Paschal. And then Isaac Ukwu is the third right defensive end. Now, we only have Mitchell Agood and Nate Lynn that are listed behind Aiden Hutchinson. But as far as I remember, Mitchell Agood is testing free agency, and Nate Lynn might have been given a futures deal. Maybe. I don't have all that in front of me. I probably have it in my article, but I don't have it in front of me right now. I can't remember everything. So then you look at linebacker room. Malcolm's in his last year. I think that the linebacker room is still a cause, a little bit of concern here, that we don't have a lot of guys inked to long-term deals. This is Alex's last year, Anzalone. So Malcolm and Alex, obviously we need somebody long-term. Could be a rookie. It's a very thin draft for linebackers, in my opinion. So we have Jack and we have Derek. Those guys are signed for multiple seasons. And then behind them, I'm not real excited about the depth that we have. Grant Stewart, I think, is going to be fine. I think Trevor Nowatzki is going to be fine. But, beyond that, you got Alex, Jack, and Derek as your starters. You got Grant and Trevor probably as your 1 and 2 backups with Malcolm Rodriguez. Yeah, Malcolm, Jack, and Derek as starters. No, I'm sorry. Jack, Derek, and Alex as starters. Malcolm, Grant, and Trevor as your backups. That's 6. The Lions had 6 on their 53 last year. So there's no room. You could still use a high, very high valuable pick here, as far as a linebacker, maybe in the 4th, 5th round, but I don't think you're going to find a linebacker that's going to crack the starting lineup in the 4th or 5th round. And again, unless somebody slips. Cornerback room. You have Amik Robertson. You have DJ Reed. You have Brian Branch. So let me go DB room. You have Amik Robertson, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, DJ Reed, Terrion Arnold. There's no room. Now, I don't know why they have Terrion Arnold listed behind DJ Reed. I think that they've lost their ever-loving mind. It's going to be Terrion Arnold on the left side or the right side. It doesn't matter. Then DJ Reed. Then Brian Branch and Kirby. And then Amik Robertson down in the nickel. Brian Branch is not going to be at the nickel. He's going to be at the safety. Doesn't mean that he won't play nickel from time to time, but he's going to be at the safety. I think that it would be insane if the Lions did bring in a high-valued pick for the safety room, depending on what they do with Kirby Joseph. But if they were to bring in another really good safety, then you could see Brian slide back to nickel. But I really liked him at safety last year. I don't know about you guys. Tell me in the comments below, where would you rather see Brian? Boxing it up in as a nickelback or back as a safety, where I think he played well. He played very well. That tandem last year was, 2 of the best in the league. But again, the whole point is there's no room, right? You have Ennis Rakestraw. He's a valuable backup right now. Obviously, we need to see more of him. Then you got Stanley Thomas Oliver, Eric Hallett, Morris Norris, Lauren Strickland. Lauren Strickland, I think, is a developing safety. So there's no room. That's the whole point that I'm just trying to make. There's no room. You can make guys better, right? You can make these positions better by bringing in some rookies that end up being better. But as far as free agents, there's a handful of guys that you could bring in right now, but I just don't see it happening. There's still guys out there like Azeez Ojulari and Matt Judon. And I think that Judon's probably going to sit and wait until after the draft. I think that it's quite possible that Zadarius Smith makes his way back. But again, I think he waits until after the draft. And the reason why I say that is players that are older that, still command a good chunk of change. Anything north of $7 million a year, I think, is a lot of money for a position. And I think it's a lot of money for any team when you commit more than $7 million a year to any individual for one season. So those players typically wait till after the draft to see what teams did and if they still have some holes on their roster where they could get some playing time. I don't think that Zadarius Smith wants to go to a team and not play. I think that he wants to play. I don't think that he just wants to sit on the bench and look pretty with his big, beautiful smile. No, I think he wants to play. So you wait till after the draft, you figure out what these teams are doing, and then you can kind of figure out what your value is, where you can slot in on a squad and be part of the solution, right? Not just part of the bench warmers. So I think that we're not going to hear much about that until after the draft, unless the Lions and Zadarius Smith get something done before the draft. I still don't think that changes what the Lions are able to do. But if you were to tell me that we were going to start with the same exact roster on defense that we had last season, minus one player, DJ Reed is the only player that has changed. That's it. That's the only starter that's changed so far. So tell me where we have room. We don't. We just don't. So that's why it's getting really tight, and that's why you don't see Brad making any moves in free agency this season. We expected it. He did exactly what we thought he was going to do, which was get another corner, another high-valued corner. DJ Reed, even though I wasn't as high on DJ Reed, I expected us to bring somebody in. I just didn't know who that individual was going to be. Honestly, this year I was stumped on who that corner was going to be. But I like the moves. Obviously, our special teams room is good. And then on offense, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Tim Patrick now back at number 3, Sam Laporta, Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, Christian Mahogany at right guard, and Penei Sewell. Like, we're solid. And so behind them, you've got Hendon Hooker as a backup and Kyle Allen and Jake Fromm. David Montgomery, obviously that's your 1-2 punch. Khalif Raymond, special teamer, punt returner, kick returner, 4th wide receiver. TK85, does he make it again? Probably. Brock Wright, who's signed for a couple of more seasons. And Dan Skipper, obviously at your swing tackle position. Netnani Moody. And, I'm not so sure about Kobe Sorsdahl. So I think that if there's more unanswered positions on the roster right now, it's offensive line. What do you guys think? Offensive line, probably a pretty big target this year for Brad Holmes. I think offensive line, we could poke some holes in it if we really wanted to. When I started with Taylor Decker, I would say that we could use an upgrade. I think that his contract is way too expensive for the production that he gave us the last 2 seasons. I'm still scratching my head over this one, Brad. Like this, if there's any extension that he handed out that I'm scratching my head over, it's Taylor Decker. Because the last 2 seasons, he's been giving up 8 sacks a year. And prior to that, he wasn't giving up that many. He was pretty sound. But ever since he had that injury and then came back, he really hasn't been the same player. Now, I don't know if that's because Graham Glasgow was having a bad year last year at left guard or what. Maybe that changes this year. Maybe it changes with Christian Mahogany maybe going to left guard. But right now they have Christian Mahogany at right guard and Graham at the left. I don't like that. I'd put Graham back to the right. I think he's more comfortable over there. But you could definitely upgrade Graham Glasgow and get younger. You could definitely upgrade Taylor Decker. So I'm going to throw it out there that there's a potential trade opportunity for the Lions with Taylor Decker. But I think that time's kind of come and gone. I don't see this happening on draft day. I don't see Taylor Decker getting moved. I think that it would make sense. But then again, it doesn't make sense because he's got such a good relationship with everybody on the squad. And sometimes you want these guys around that know the offense, that know what they're doing. You can help him in his deficiencies if he has any this year. Maybe he comes out and plays, lights out this year. Maybe he has his best year out of the last 4 in 2025. Hopefully he does. But if he comes out swinging this year and has a really good season, great. But you can also back him up by rolling, some tight ends over, putting some more guys in motion to slam behind Taylor Decker, picking up those chip blocks. More importantly, we can't let guys be free and hot off the left side. Last year, we saw a couple of guys hot off the left side that got to Jared Goff. I think that's a stupid play call. It's stupid to ever let a guy be hot off the blind side of the quarterback. I don't like it. And if you're expecting a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery to pick up, a 6'6", 280-pound defensive end, you're just asking for trouble. You're either asking for an injury to your running back or you're asking, for an injury to your quarterback. Just dumb move by Ben Johnson last year. It happened a couple of times. Can't do it. Not again. And you also saw J-Mo get completely annihilated last year. Was that last year? Crosby completely flatlined J-Mo. Was it last year or the year before? Maybe it was the year before. Can't have these guys being hot like that. They've got to be covered. Okay, so how did the Lions get better over the weekend? Now, I didn't do, any work on this guy. I just was completely unimpressed at the moment, but let's talk about him anyway. The new tight end that we brought in. Here we go. All right, this is not breaking news, but we're going to use the asset here because still putting stuff back together after the computer got back. So let me make this a little bit better for us so we can actually read the damn thing. All right, so the Lions signed former Jets tight end Kenny Yeboah. I think it's Yeboah, not Yeboah. I think it's Yeboah, but I've been butchering names all weekend long. It's all good. We'll get it right at some point. Anyway, Kenny signed with the Lions. The team announced this Saturday afternoon. He's 26 years old, so he's entering his second contract. He was an undrafted free agent in 2021 out of Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is kind of just everywhere this year, like everywhere. They've had a great season last year, record-breaking season for them. And now we've got one of their former guys. He spent the last 4 seasons with the Jets, so I assume that, there's some conversations here that have been had with possibly Aaron Glenn, right? Trying to figure out, just who this guy is. And he caught 9 of his 15 targets, 111 yards, 33 career appearances. Much of Yeboah's offensive responsibilities have been as a blocker. So I like this, but now I'm a little concerned about Brock Wright. Like, okay, we brought in another blocker. Why? Exactly what I just said a minute ago about Taylor Decker. You bring in another blocker like this to back up Taylor Decker. You put these guys in motion, and they're going to be given, help to Taylor Decker and others, right? Picking up the chip blocks and leveraging, less assets on the field. So you only have, 5 offensive weapons on the field at any given time. The more you commit to blocking roles, the less weapons you have to throw to. So having a guy that can catch the ball, but also at 6'4", 250 pounds, it's not a light guy. He's pretty big. He moves well. He's played 606 snaps on special teams since 2021. So this guy plays teams, right, at a high level. He's a better special teamer than he is a tight end. But he's also a really good blocker. So his grades on special teams from Pro Football Focus every season, 86.7 in 21, 75.6 in 22, 76.8 in 23. Last year, well, he totally just fell off the board. 49.4. I'm thinking that Brad Holmes is probably looking at the first 3 seasons like he has it. What happened last year? Why did the floor just fall out from underneath the guy? What happened here? So I think that once you dig into the tape on this guy, which I have not done, we'll probably figure out that, well, this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about. This is a Jets team that was a complete mess. And a lot of guys just fell apart last season for the Jets. So I'm going to blame Aaron Rodgers on this one. And I'm going to blame the fact that the Jets just didn't know what the hell they were doing. And that's probably why he had a bad season. Obviously, the other tight ends that we have on the roster, Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Shane Zielstra is a UFA right now. James Mitchell is gone. And I think that this was a good signing. I think it was a good pickup. I'm not expecting this guy to do anything on offense at all. But the limited amount of tape that I did watch on, very limited. Like I watched some highlights, and that was about it. The guy moves well. Like he moves really well. And I do like his physicality, his stature. I think that he's got good size, height, weight, speed. And bringing him in as a blocker, obviously as a camp body right now, you didn't invest a ton of money into him. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for the Lions to, you're backfilling behind, the James Mitchell loss, or you're trying to see if Shane Zielstra, if he does come back, can he beat out Shane Zielstra? I'm really surprised. Like Shane Zielstra was having a really good season a couple of seasons ago, and he's just kind of fallen apart. It just hasn't been sticking around. Hasn't been as impressive as he was in that, I think it was 2022 season. It's another good move. Could the Lions add a tight end in the draft? They could. They absolutely could, especially with where their picks line up. You could see the Lions add another tight end this draft. I'm all about adding another pass catcher, though. I would love to see the Lions, add a 6'5", 6'6" tight end that can catch the ball. If they were to add somebody like that, I wouldn't be mad. I really wouldn't. We still need another wide receiver, but why not snag a tight end that also helps you on the offensive line? Let's see. Yep, mailbag at rockdown.com. If you guys have questions, if you have topics, ideas, anything you'd like to discuss throughout the week, hit me up there. Not only will I put it into an article, but then we'll talk about it. Wednesdays is the day for that. So Wednesdays, we're going to do well, look at that. Can't talk. Midweek mailbag conversations on Wednesday. So get it in, mailbag at rockdown.com. I literally won't even check it until Tuesday night. And Tuesday night, I'll put together the segment. Yeah, full slate. Yeah, Shane, the whole knee injury, yeah. He hasn't been the same. Oh, we got some news here by Pride of Detroit, I guess from Trace, says that they're working to try to keep Hendrickson. The Bengals, that is. I have no idea how they're going to make this happen. They clearly prioritized offense. But now that they know what those are looking like, I wonder what it's going to be. I'm trying to pull up this other thing we didn't get a chance to go over last week here on Giovani Manu. Let's see if I can get this pulled up. All right, Gio. So there was not necessarily breaking news, but Gio, man, I mean, looking ready to rock and roll. Gio's looking ready. He's looking big. He's looking fit. He's so damn big, I can't even fit him on the screen. I'm really excited about this player. Like, really excited. I can't wait to see what he does this year. Man, the screen is going to look terrible in the replay, but maybe I could just cut it all out. Sorry, normally this stuff is taken care of, but like I said, I just got the PC back. Had some things done last night, and it's not right. Anyway, let's take a look at Gio, man. He's looking good in his offseason program. I mean, look how massive this guy is. You compare him to Taylor Decker, it's not even close. Like, Taylor looks like a dad now. You know, he's got the dad bod going. And I'm not saying that Taylor's weak, but there is a clear difference between a guy like Giovani Manu and Taylor Decker. A huge difference. You can see why Brad Holmes invested in this guy. I mean, his legs, they're wider than my entire waist. I've never seen this shoulder contraption that they're using. I'm sure they have all sorts of cool weightlifting programs, but the unique things that he's doing, obviously a lot of core training here. Resistance. Right now he's working on strengthening his lower legs, working on those tendons. He's just massive, man. Goodness. Want to see those pads low this year, Gio. So when we look at guys that Brad invest in, right? I know a lot of you dislike this whole Broderick Martin thing, but just look at Gio. I mean, Gio is, and we'll watch it again. Gio is working it out right now. He's getting better in the offseason. He'll be in OTAs here in about a month and a half, and that's where we're going to get our first opportunity to see his transformation. And again, we're going to see our Broderick Martin transformation now in his third season. Last year, obviously, the knee injury hurt him. Gio was just a healthy scratch all year because he couldn't crack the roster. Like, he just wasn't there yet. There was a big difference, you know, between what he did at UBC and obviously what goes on at, you know, American colleges and American programs, football programs, and then an NFL program. So he's under a learning curve. But his massive size and athletic ability, I mean, bar none, he's going to be one of the best testing, athletes for his position, for his size, height, weight, speed. The guy moves. As soon as he puts it all together and he turns that switch on upstairs, he's going to be a hell of a left tackle. But imagine now him sliding in and taking over for Skipper. And Skipper's a big dude, but Gio's massive. And as long as he can keep those shoulders down and keep the pad level down, I mean, his legs can anchor into anything. So I am super excited to see where he goes this season. Yeah. Good stuff from Gio, man. Okay, Bengals may go stupid and do a ton of void years, becoming the current day Saints. Yep. So, Brian, yeah, I guarantee every contract's going to have void years in it, especially for these big contracts. But the thing with void years is, and if, I'm pretty sure I understand this correctly, you can only have 5 years on a contract. So if you do a 3-year extension, you can add 2 void years. I think that's it. I think that's the max you can go. I don't think you can add like 5 or 6 more void years to kind of kick the can down the road even further. I think the max you can go is 5. I could be wrong, but hopefully the Spotrac guy will come on soon and explain it to us in the next week or so, because I need to understand where these contracts are developing, because every year we see teams doing all this crazy stuff that doesn't make any sense. The one thing that we do know is you cannot be over the salary cap before the new league year. So you can do whatever you want between now and next year at this time. You've got to be back under the salary cap. So even if you go 50, 60, 70 million over the cap, you don't get penalized until you are over the cap past the new league year, which would have been 4 p.m. March 12th of this year. So as long as you're under the cap by 3:59 p.m., you're fine. So the Lions could do that, right? We could bring in all these players. We could overspend, right? We can post-date our check. But how's that going to help us? Why would you even want to put yourself into cap purgatory and then play the game? You're just going to end up losing football players. Yeah, a lot of dead money, Kevin. Exactly. A lot of dead money. Exactly, dude. Exactly. If you guys haven't checked out Justin Rogers at Detroit Football Network, he just 30 minutes ago put up DJ Reed's evaluation. So he did a full tape review on DJ Reed. I can't wait to read it. He's got some examples in there clipped. I would show it here, but it's a paid-for subscription, so I'm not going to do that to him. Please subscribe to Justin. Obviously, take a look at what he's putting out. He's, in my opinion, the best Detroit Lions writer out there. There's some really good ones. I'm not knocking anybody. There's some really good ones, but I think that Justin is probably the hardest working Detroit Lions writer out there. Dave Burkett, obviously, been doing it forever. Michael Hara before him, been doing it forever. Two of the guys that I really respected, growing up this entire time as a Lions fan. There's a lot of good writers out there, but I don't think that there's anybody that works as hard as Justin Rogers does. Like, he really does a good job. And I'm not knocking it. Like I said, I'm not knocking anyone. Just saying that check his stuff out, man. There's no narratives, right? No clickbait. Just football. Just football and facts. That's what I love about it. That's what he sticks to. Yeah, possibly, Kevin. Possibly. I've never asked, but possibly. All right, let me see what else I got on my list today. Today's just kind of a off-the-cuff kind of day since I did a couple hours last night. So, team needs. Like, if we were to go through team needs for the Lions right now, man, what do they have? About 23, 24, 25 spots left on the roster. I kind of highlighted this the other day when, you look at the draft. We're probably going to bring in 5 to 7 guys is what I'm expecting. 5 to 7. And according to Spotrac, right now, let me just double check how many guys they have allocated. So at the top 51 right now, the Lions rank 26th in the NFL with $252,333,517 allocated to the top 51. So top 51 cap space, because the Lions are able to spend over the cap with the rollover money. The Lions still have $54 million in cap space, is what I'm understanding. That's a ton of cap space. It's a ton of cap space. So they've done all this work already, and that cap number hasn't moved. So they have the money to do whatever they want to do with it, but next year, obviously, things become a problem when you play that whole game of post-dated checks, right? I think it's a bad thing to get into. You don't want to get into playing the game like the Saints or the Bears or anybody else that just spends all this money. So active roster right now, the Lions only have 63 players according to Over the Cap, which means 27 more players need to be picked up and signed. Okay, so what does that mean? Out of the 27, let's just say you get 6 from the draft. Let's write this down. So we've got 63, which means that we need 27. If we add 6, that means the Lions still have 21 players to sign. Every year, you see the Lions grab about 12 UDFAs. It could be more this year. So then that brings us down to 9 guys. So between now and the draft, and then the summer, and then after summer cuts, the Lions realistically have about 9 guys they can add to this team. Where are those 9 guys going to come from? Well, how many guys do we have out there that are free agents that have not been re-signed yet, that were on last year's squad? See if I can do this on the fly here. I don't like doing this because usually it takes a while, but all right. Right now, let's just say, I'll put it in front of me. So we know that these guys are out. Maurice Alexander, James Mitchell, Kevin Zeitler, Carlton Davis, Kindle Vildor, Ifeatu Melifonwu, they're gone. We're not worried about them. So guys like Shane Zielstra, Connor Galvin, who is not tendered, Coyote Owasika, who's a restricted free agent. I think that Coyote Owasika could come back. Al-Qadim Muhammad, I don't think he's signed anywhere. He's a potential. Mitchell Agood, who was not tendered. They're going to let him hit the market and see what happens. He's someone that could come back. So there's 3. Pat O'Connor. I'm very surprised that Pat O'Connor has not been re-signed. He maybe wants too much money. Ben Nyman, Kyle Pecco. So there's 6. But when I look at the defensive line, like we did last night and again this morning, I said that there was about 2 spots compared to last season and this season that are available. And if one of those spots or both of those spots is going to be via the draft, well, if we were to bring guys back like Kyle Pecco or Pat O'Connor, then we're going to be really heavy on the defensive line going into camp, which is not a bad thing, because I think that once you get through the first week of camp, maybe week and a half, a couple of those guys may be released, and you'll start to slim down right away. I think the guys that are ready for the camp and they hit the ground running, they're not all nicked up, and they're playing at a high level right away, they're going to stick. But if there's some guys that kind of limp into the camp that maybe they're not ready, they didn't take the off season, as important as others, they're going to get moved off them, pretty quickly. I don't think the Lions are going to screw around this year and wait and see approach. I don't think guys like Emmanuel Mosley will be back. Khalil Dorsey, like that injury was crazy. I think that they value Khalil Dorsey. I really do. I just don't know if it's going to make sense right now. Let's not have a bunch of hurt corners, injured corners. Great story. Love the dude. I think he's a good football player. I'm just not so sure that he's going to make it back right now. But I think guys like Ben Nyman, Kyle Pecco, Pat O'Connor, even John Kaminsky to a point, but I don't think that John Kaminsky sticks on the roster. I just don't. And Al-Qadim Muhammad, all defensive line for the most part, outside of Ben Nyman. I think that those are the guys that you could potentially see back. Shane Zielstra is another one. The fact that we just signed a tight end, though, may say otherwise. Other than that, I just don't see any of these other guys that are unsigned. Teddy B, we know he's coaching. Jamar Jefferson, running back. Yeah, there could be a potential there. I see the Lions maybe getting a running back day 3 of the draft. I think that they do, honestly. Allen Robinson, I don't think he comes back. Donovan Peoples-Jones, good experiment, didn't work out. Connor Galvin, like I said, Kayode Iwasaka, possible. But I think it's Giovani Manu's time, and he's going to get some time this year. I think that they're going to be less likely to keep those guys around. Kobe Sorsdal is the biggest question mark for me. I think that the Lions are going to enter this draft with 2 things on their mind. Defensive line and offensive line. I think that's the most important thing that they're going after this year. They want to make sure that the guys like Kobe Sorsdal that have not shown up and have not been able to play at a high level through 3 seasons, your time has come and gone. Like 3 years, we know Brad Holmes says it all the time. Do not, evaluate my guys until year 3. Well, any guys that have been around now for a few seasons, like Kobe Sorsdal, who we've seen utilized in games, just doesn't play to the level that I think that the Lions are looking for. From a fan's perspective, I think he's hot trash. But I try not to be that mean-spirited towards football players because they work their asses off. But I think that what we've seen, his output so far, has not been good. It just has not been good. So I think guys like Kobe Sorsdal are going to get edged out with possibly a rookie incoming this season. I don't see any other veterans being added to this squad right now. Unless someone gets cut after camp, which Brad obviously does it every year. After camp, 53-man cuts, he usually brings in at least one body, one person, one player somewhere, and that could be an offensive lineman. Is Jamarco Jones re-signed? I think he is, right? Jamarco Jones? And see, I'm surprised that Jamarco Jones didn't get more opportunity last year. I thought that he played way better than a Kobe Sorsdal or, even... Where is Jamarco? Here he is. Yeah, so he's re-signed. Looks like a vet minimum deal, $1.1 million. So I think that's the answer. I think that Jamarco is going to stick around this year. Oh, wow. What am I seeing here, Art? Derek Stingley just signed the highest contract at corner? Oh, my goodness. $30 million to go to corners now? Yeah, I'm sorry. You've got to live. You have to live in the draft. You have to. These contracts are just getting completely asinine. And corner's tough, right? It is a tough position. It's the hardest position in the NFL, in my opinion, to find good quality players that can play year in and year out. When you find one, I think that the second contract guys are the most valuable. Obviously, Brad, I think he kind of feels the same way. When I say second contract, I mean guys that have been in the league either 4 or 5 seasons. So when they're entering their 5th or 6th season in the NFL, those are the corners that I want. I don't want to do max deals, but what we paid for DJ Reed, I think that's perfect. But doubling that for Derek Stingley, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Stupidest thing I've ever seen. I would never pay that kind of money, especially for Derek Stingley Jr. No way. No way. I would rather take draft picks and move up and grab the best corner in the draft every year than pay a corner $30 million. I'm sorry, that money has to be spent on defensive end, wide receiver, quarterback, and I think that's about it. Like that, those are the biggest areas I would spend a lot of money at. I think you need one really good safety. Obviously, you need one really good corner. But I don't think you want to overpay. Not like that. No way. Yeah, left tackle. Sorry, there we go. Left tackle. So you can always find some guys that have been in the league that don't get max money that still play pretty well. It's all about how they play together at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what team they're coming from. It matters how they play together on their new team. All right, so I was talking about draft strategy earlier. Let me just finish it. I kind of got off and running today. This is what happens when I don't go through a structured show. So my key points this year, like analysts were speculating the Lions, were positioned to find a stunning steal. I feel the same way, but I think that Brad is going to be on the offense. I'm expecting Brad not to wait for something to land in his lap. I think that he's going to go find something. Player prospects for this season. I think that various players are being discussed at potential targets for the Lions with this, specific emphasis on the necessary skills to fit the Detroit Lions. And I think that those players, obviously defensive end, defensive tackle, you probably could throw a wide receiver in there, linebacker. I think those are the most important, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions add another guard that maybe is, got the short arm syndrome, tackle syndrome, right? This draft went from a ton of tackles, ton of offensive linemen, to a ton of guards, in my opinion, right? You've got all these tackles that have short arms. Those are now guards. It's just the way it's going to be. They wouldn't be tackles on my team. If you don't have 33 and a half, 34-inch arms as a tackle, you're not playing tackle. Sorry. Just not happening. Team needs for the Lions, I think I just kind of highlighted that. Long-term implications, I think, again, I speak to roster roulette. The Lions need to backfill their big future contracts. You bring in a guy in 2021 or 2022 with Aiden Hutchinson. Well, 2025, you backfill, right? You're paying now for Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown from 2021. You probably need to backfill now, right? You need to find another right tackle. You need to find another wide receiver that can play at a high level that is not going to cost you anything but a rookie deal. So I think that when we look at the draft, those positions, tackle, wide receiver, defensive end, you just paid Aleem McNeil. You need to backfill that with a defensive tackle. Aleem was selected in 2021. Those are the four main positions for me, which is defensive tackle, defensive end, right tackle, and wide receiver. Those are probably the four main positions that I would be backfilling in 2025. Detailed breakdown for this year, we've kind of gone over it. I think that the Lions, what they did last season, is what they're trying to replicate this season. They got a really good look at the guys that are on the roster today that had to play a lot more snaps than they would have normally had everyone stayed healthy. And they did a damn good job. So I think that bringing these guys back made a lot of sense. So I think that the performance this season is going to be predicated on what they built last season, which is they learned a lot. They got a ton of exposure. They grew as a team, as an organization. And I think now you're going to see it all come together in 2025. What else did I have in here? The playoff exit last year, look, I get it. I see it all over social media. I see it in my comments often. People say, well, 15-2 didn't matter because we left, the first round. And they blame defensive end. They blame the defense. But I think a lot of us fans need to make sure we recognize the most important factor here, and that was injuries. Now, you can't have excuses, right? If you remember Juju Williams that we had on a few weeks ago, excuses are opportunities, right? You turn them into opportunities. So last year, we had a whole lot of opportunity, and I think that what the Lions noticed is they had a lot of really good football players that they didn't realize maybe could play to the level that they played at. Maybe they had an idea. Maybe they thought that they could, but they didn't really know that they could. Now they know. So they turned all of those what would have been excuses into opportunities. But what I am going to say at the end of the day is sometimes you have too many opportunities, right? And it comes back to bite you in the ass. They had too many injuries. That's why the Lions lost. And I think furthermore from that, you've heard me say it multiple times, AG, what the hell, dude? If a 45-year-old armchair GM knows not to blitz an RPO against the number one quarterback in the NFL that runs the RPO against the blitz, why didn't you? Come on. And I wasn't the only one. Michael Strahan, Tom Brady, and others backed up exactly what I was saying before the game and after the game the next week against the Eagles. Wide receiver, I still think that this is an area that the Lions could add this year. We got Tim Patrick back, which is huge. We have Khalif, we have J-Mo, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown. But really beyond that, who do we have? Tom Kennedy? Is Ronnie Bell even around? I don't know if he is. I thought Ronnie Bell was gone. We don't really have anybody beyond that. So I think the wide receiver is on the list. You know, I think that Brad Holmes is going to check that list twice when he gets into the third round, fourth round. He's going to find somebody that is going to fit this team. And I'm hoping that somebody is going to be in the neighborhood of 6'2.5" or better. And, 205, 210, 215, someone that can run a sub 4.5 that, I don't really care about the 40 speed. I care about the play speed. But someone that can body and box and get these contested catches. I think that we need another playmaker. Don't need a speed demon necessarily, but we need a playmaker. Long-term implications if the Lions were to bring in another defensive end. We've talked about that to death. I don't think that it's going to happen. Again, if other teams do it, they're doing it to their own peril. We've never seen a team invest in the same position with max contracts and win a Super Bowl. It just doesn't happen. Everyone that was wanting Danielle Hunter, well, the Texans didn't win a Super Bowl, and they clearly had, on paper, the best defense in the league last year. Minnesota Vikings had the second best defense on paper last year, might have the first best this year, but they didn't win a Super Bowl either. So it's all the time. It's not bringing in these high-priced free agents. It's not doubling down at one position. No, it's making sure that you have adequate depth, that the guys that you do have on the starting roster can play at a high level, and they play together. If you implement the right scheme, and if they play for the right reasons, you'll win more football games. The things that I said last year, and those of you that have been around this entire time, you know this to be true. What are the 2 or 3 things that I said in 24's offseason that needed to be extremely important for the Lions to win football games in 2024? I'll let you think about it for just a moment. Just paint it in the chat or in the comments later if you're listening. There's a couple of things that I said were going to be really important. Moving into the offseason, there was a couple of positions that I pointed out. Moving into the draft, there was a couple of positions that I pointed out. And then during the season, there was one key stat that I said had to be under a certain amount. And if they could just maintain that, they're going to win a ton of football games. And it all happened. All of it. And I'm going to say a lot of the same things this year when I get to my final pre-draft rankings and, set up for the season. Hopefully it remains true. I haven't been wrong yet. I mean, I'm wrong on a lot. Don't get me wrong there. I get things wrong all the time. I'm human. But some of the things that I've spoken about that no one else cares to speak about, we get it right because we put the time in. We put the work in to try to give you guys good quality information. Oh, there it is. Someone already put it in the chat. Wayne Rogers says points per game. And that's on the defense. Right? So last year, I've been studying the stat for a long time. And I said, if the Lions can just maintain a defense that allows 20 points or less, they're going to win a bunch of ball games. 20 points or less. went 15-2. How many times did the Lions maintain 20 points or less and win? I'm going to ask all of you to do this. Please go look at the last, 3, 4, 5 seasons. And go look at all the games that they won. Now, sometimes you'll have games where both teams scored more than 20. Right? That does happen. But the point is, if you look at the long term, right, or the long formula, it makes sense. So we'll start with week 1. The Lions held the Rams to 20. We won. We scored 26. The next week, well, the Lions allowed the Buccaneers to score 20. We lost. How about the next week? The Lions scored 20. The Cardinals 13. We won. The week after that, we allowed the Seahawks to score 29, but the Lions scored 42. But here's the problem with this game. Those 29 points, right? The game at the end is not the game from the beginning. The Lions were up 35-7, I believe, in the third quarter. So allowing, another 20 or 22 points, whatever it was that the Seahawks scored in the last 2 quarters, the end means don't really match up to the end score, right? So the Lions were killing them. They had a large lead, and they allowed some freebie points to be scored in this game. And then the refs, between the third and fourth quarter, they were terrible in this game. But again, the Lions were up huge, and they allowed some points on the board. I don't think Calvin Shepard allows that this year. Cowboys. How about the Cowboys game? 47-9. Cowboys didn't even score a touchdown in that game. How about the Vikings? 31-29. That was a really close game away at the Vikings. Again, sometimes they score more than 20, but you still win that game. How about the Titans? 52-14. But again, the Titans didn't even have but 6 points on the board. For the longest, or 7 points on the board. I think that they scored a touchdown in the first, a touchdown in the second, late in the second, and then nothing for the entire second half. Let me just go. I'll just spit out the rest of them. Packers only scored 14. Texans scored 23 and 5 interceptions, right? Jaguars scored 6. Colts scored 6. Bears scored 20. Packers 31. Lions scored 34. The Bills. Yeah, you can't let the Bills score 48 points. You just can't. Can't do it. The Bears, again, only scored 17. The Lions doubled them up at 34. 49ers. End of the season, Lions are, a lot of injuries. 40-34, I'll take it. And then week 18, Vikings only scored 9. So if you look at all of the weeks that the opponent scored 20 or less, the Lions won. The Lions won. Every single week that the opponent scored 20 or less. And you can follow that stat and go back as many years as you want. It's meaningful. The Lions, through the first 12 weeks, they allowed less than 17 points combined. With all 12 weeks, you go add it up, divided by 12, it was like 16.7 points. The Lions were at the top of the list. They were like, 2 or 3 as far as points allowed, defensive points allowed. And they finished at 20.1 on the season. Again, this is a year that the Lions are going to have to maintain reducing opponent scoring. That is the most important thing. From 20 to 20, they did a lot of stupid stuff. They allowed way too many pass yards. They were playing way too loose. They've got to tighten it up a little bit. But our red zone defense, one of the best red zone defenses in the league last season. We just didn't allow teams to score. So if we do it again, it's not like we had some crap defense. We had a really good defense. I just think schematically, Aaron Glenn is just stubborn and stupid at times. I don't mean he's stupid like intellectually, just stupid play calls, right? Stupid scheme, stubborn and stupid at times. Got to be able to, stick to your guns there and make sure that you're doing the right things and not get too stubborn. The implications of the Lions draft decisions, I think it's going to extend beyond the immediate future for this year. And the success of the draft, I think, is going to sway some fans a little bit. So transforming the team dynamics, obviously it's what you're trying to do every year. You're trying to integrate a high caliber player into the offense or defense. You want to shift, the team's competitive landscape from year to year. You want to make the team even more of a contender in future seasons. And it starts with the players that you bring in this season throughout the draft. Brad Holmes has already set a precedent for all the drafts. And it pretty much stayed the same. That's why I don't understand why some fans think or, certain things are going to happen from year to year. It's pretty much been the same. Brad has told us exactly what he's going to do, and he does it. He's really never lied to us. He doesn't hide a whole lot. I know that is like an epiphany, like he's a GM that just doesn't lie. He doesn't hide a whole bunch, but at the same time, I think he's savvy and smart enough that he says all of the right things, and people just don't believe him. They don't believe him, but then he does it, and then they're shocked that he actually did it. No, I'm not shocked at all. But fan engagement, and I think fan morale, he doesn't care about it. Like, he cares, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care that you want an edge rusher. He doesn't care. He doesn't care that I want a 6'4" receiver. He could care less. What Brad's job is to make sure that he's fielding a competitive team and that the books are balanced at the end of the day, and that they can continue fielding a franchise year in and year out that is competitive and that is winning. This team has gone from 3-13-1 to 9-8 to 12-5 to 15-2. I'm not going to put Super Bowl or bust on Brad Holmes' head. I'm not going to do that. That is unfair. That is unrealistic. And it's I don't even know how else to say it. It's just unrealistic. That's like saying the Bengals, okay, you just locked up 2 really good wide receivers and you're trying to keep Trey Hendrickson. You better win the Super Bowl this year because you just spent all that money on all those players, right? You better win the Super Bowl. Super Bowl or bust, otherwise your GM should be fired. No, it doesn't work that way. You know how much has to go right for a team to win the Super Bowl and how much luck they need to have? You could have all of the best players in the league on one team, and it still doesn't mean you're going to win. I'm dead serious. You could take the best football player at every position and every backup position and put them on a team, and it still doesn't mean that they're going to win. It doesn't mean that they're going to be undefeated either. You know why? Because injuries happen. You still have to perform on Sunday or Monday or Thursday or Saturday. Hell, football's every day now, it seems like. You need a little bit of luck to go with it. You need the right scheme. You need the right play call at the right time. You still have to beat your opponent. And this is the NFL, so it's not like the best football player who people think is the best football player, the football player that may be ranked the highest in PFF, doesn't mean that individual can't get beaten by a 3rd-round pick from last season. Because it happens all the time. Happens all the time. What's going on with Hutch? The hate on Hutch's defense was awesome with him out there. What are we talking about? Did I miss something? Pay Hutch or what? Getting a ton of sacks on other teams' backups at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, you know that I've been talking about that for a long time. It's not hate on Hutch. If you're talking to me, it's not hate on Hutch. It's called I'm realistic, right? It's called I look past the stats and I watch the tape. Okay? Go back, and I don't normally say this because I separate Saturdays and Sundays. Go back and watch his college tape. Watch it in his, let's see, what year did he break his leg? I think it was his sophomore season. Either way, watch his 2 most recent seasons in college where he actually played, which have been his senior season, and I think it was his junior season. There's a reason why he went from like 5 sacks to 19. Right? Number one, the quality of opponent in that final season was terrible. Outside of Ohio State and Michigan State on the roster that year, or on the schedule that year, they didn't play really anybody. So that's part of it, right? Is quality of opponent. Number 2, yeah, if you look at the biggest games that Hutch has had in his professional career so far, the multiple sack games have come against largely a terrible offensive line or offensive line that are starting third or fourth string tackles and guards, or a combination of second and third string guards next to each other. So, and again, like I just said, yeah, there might be a third round pick that can beat out, a number one. Same can be said here, but when you're going up against inferior, like really inferior opponents, Hutch was able to have a lot more success. And as he should. Like if he didn't have that success, then I'd really be worried. But all I'm saying is then look at the tape where he's going up against the number ones. Look at when he's going up against the better tackles. And you'll see a defining difference. And again, it's not an indictment on Hutch, because I love what he's all about. Absolutely love what he's all about. Love his energy, love his motor. He's a great character. I mean, he's all Detroit all day long. I get it. But if you really want to have a serious conversation about paying somebody like that kind of money, to me, they have to win their one-on-ones against everybody. Not all the time, right? You can't win every rep. I know you want to, but you can't. That's unrealistic. But you need to do it on the majority of times. So, you know what? Maybe I'll make this a project, and I'll start diving in to all of his sacks, who they were up against, where that individual was ranked, where the offense was ranked, yada, 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 yada. I'll make it a project. It'll probably take me a month to get it done. So we'll come up with something. But no, I think Hutch is a great player, great football player. He's not Myles Garrett money. Like Myles beats his one-on-ones, but not only he beats his one-on-twos. That's the big difference. And you know why he beats his one-on-twos more often? Because his arms are longer than 33 and a half inches. That's why. He's able to extend. He's able to use leverage. He's able to use, his pad height. And he's an extremely quick, powerful football player. So all of those things matter. I'm not saying Hutch doesn't deserve to get paid, because he will get paid. But how much are you willing to pay somebody if they can't beat number ones? That's my question. Did I not turn off ads? I keep seeing people drop in and drop out. Usually that's because of ads. So, no, ads are off. Maybe it's just YouTube today. Anyway, not an indictment on him. I think that I think he's a great dude. I really do. I love everything he's about. But sometimes, if I were the GM, I would be having that conversation with my coaching staff. Like, if he goes up against Joe Alt, what's going to happen? If he goes up against Joe Tooney, what's going to happen? If he goes up, against some of the other top, who are the top left tackles? How many times does he win against Penei Sewell? And that's, look at Penei Sewell. He's not a prototypical left tackle. Penei Sewell's size, when you look at his size, we've never had this conversation. I've never spoken about this, and I've kind of kept it. He's 6'5". He's pretty tall, right? He's pretty tall. 33 and a quarter inch arms. That's too short for me for a left tackle. 10 and 3/8 inch hands, though. Maybe his hands and his arm length work well together. But I'd rather see my left tackle be that 6'6", 6'7" guy, 34 plus inch arms, 10 inch hands or better. That's prototypical size for me. At least that's what my sheet tells me. And I've compared it against all of the top left tackles out there. Matter of fact, just so happens, I have it. Hold on. Here you go. When we talk about some of the best tackles to ever do it, how about this? Jordan Mailata. That dude was like, I think he came over from like an international thing. Mailata did. Wasn't he like a rugby player or something? He was never a football player. You think he was drafted in round 7? The guy is 80 inches tall. I've got everything broken down into inches, so I don't know what it is. That would be So 72. So that'd be 6'8". He's 6'8". Lane Johnson, 6'6". Garrett Bowles, 6'5". Mike McGlinchey, 6'8". Tristan Wirfs, 6'5". Luke Godecki, 6'5". Penei Sewell, actually 6'4" and 3/4. Deion Dawkins, a little bit shorter at 6'4". Zach Tom, 6'2" and 1/4. Ikem Okwanu, 6'4". Trent Williams, 6'5". Alaric Jackson, 6'5" and 1/2. Christian Darisaw, 6'4" and 1/2. Joe Alt, 6'9". Huge dude. I had other guys in here: Joe Thomas, David Bakhtiari, Jonathan Ogden, Walter Jones, Willie Anderson. I just don't have all of their measurements in that. But their arm length, their average arm length, just between those guys that I mentioned, 34 inches was their average arm length. 35 and 1/2, 35 and 1/4, 34, 34, 34, 35, 34, 34 and 1/4, 34 and 1/4, 34 and 1/4. And then you had a handful of guys. Now, these are the elite of the elite of the elite, right? So they've utilized every tool that they have. 32 and 1/2 inch arms, 33 and 1/4, 33 and 1/4, 32 and 1/4. That's it. So you had 4 guys that were well below your prototypical size. How were they able to do that? Well, here's the answer. Their wingspan, their ape score, right? Deion Dawkins, Alaric Jackson, he might have only had 32 and 1/2 inch arms, but he had a 1.08 ape score, which meant that he was really tall in the chest or really wide in the chest. So when you separate that breastbone and you're able to put that arm out, he can get really long. That's the difference. So if you have short arms, you have to have a big ape score. You have to have a really good wingspan. I know, I just got off into something else, didn't I? The best guards, Joe Tooney, Quinn Manierrez, Frank Ragnow, Quentin Nelson, and Frank, I have him in there as a guard, but he's also obviously a center. Chris Lindstrom, Dominic Pooney last year, if you guys remember when I did the draft workup, right, all my mock drafts, I had Dominic Pooney slated to the Lions, I think in the 3rd or 4th round, if memory serves me right. Dominic Pooney ended up being one of the best guards last season in the NFL. How does this happen? Like, how do we not pick up this guy? We got Christian Mahogany, but we could have had Dominic Pooney. Anyway, Joel Bitonio, Zach Martin, Jack Conklin. Now, most of these guys average a 33 and 1/2 inch arm. You have a couple of guys at 32 and 3/4, 32 and 7/8, but every one of them, 32 and 1/4, Joe Tooney, but every other one of them is over 33 and 3/8. So as a guard, like I was saying earlier in this draft, if these guys have arms in that 33 inch range, 32 and 7/8 to 33 and 1/2, those are guards in my opinion. Anything from 33 and 3/4 and up, that can be a tackle. 33 and 3/4 is like the bottom end of the barrel for me. I just can't do it. What's even more alarming is your centers. So centers, I don't care about their arms. I really don't. I don't care what their arm length is. And obviously, some of the best centers in the league, Jason Kelsey, 32 and 1/2 inch arms. Creed Humphrey, 32 and 1/2 inch arms. Travis Frederick, 33 inch arms. Ryan Khalil, 26 inch arms. How is that even possible? Marquise Pouncey, 32 and 1/2 inch arms. Jeff Saturday, 31 and 1/2 inch arms. Frank Ragnow, 33 and 1/3. 33 and 1/8. I know. I just said a bunch of numbers that people are probably wondering, what the hell is this dude talking about? Well, we started talking about arm length and why it's important. I started talking about the right tackle situation with Penei Sewell, and it all stemmed from talking about Aiden Hutchinson and, can he beat these guys in these one-on-ones, and what happens when he goes up against, some of these better tackles in the league. If you're going up against a guy that Joe Alt, who's 6'9", and he's got 34 and 1/4 inch arms, But Aiden's ape score is the worst ape score I've ever seen for a defensive end. It's a .99. His wingspan and his height combined, he's under an average wingspan. That's not good, right? That means that when you engage, you can't disengage. That's why he uses the spin move so often. My opinion. He'll probably never admit to it, but I think that that's why he uses the spin move. Because he can't engage, right, and shove these tackles back and then try to disengage and then get to the running back or the quarterback. He's got to use a spin move to get free. You know, these tackles are smart. When they get up underneath and they get underneath the rib and they're able to latch in, then you're not going to get away. Robert, why did we draft him? I mean, he's a damn good football player. I'm not saying that he's not a good football player. Not at all. I'm just saying that he's not the best defensive end in the league. And he shouldn't get paid as much as the best defensive end in the league. I have Aiden in the top 10. More towards 10. Like, I get it. There's a lot of you that are going to say, yeah, but Will, he gets 100 pressures or 80 pressures or so what? Do you know what a pressure is? Do you know how many different metrics there are for pressures? Do you know that just simply pushing a lineman back 1 yard into the pocket equals a pressure? So in pass pro, right, when these offensive linemen are already set up into a position where they're kind of coming back into the pocket, they're intentionally putting themselves into a pressure situation. So it's easy to get pressure. I'm not saying easy. It's easier to record a pressure in the league now because they've changed the metrics. Before, you know, pressure was identified way differently. And there's something that I will always hold much higher than just pressure, and that's quick pressure. If you're able to get pressure on the quarterback in under 2.5 seconds, that matters to me, right? Anything over 2.5 seconds is a different type of pressure. Pressure is pressure. You can still record a pressure after 4 seconds, right? Just by, you know, getting to the quarterback when they're releasing the football. So if you're chasing a quarterback around and they're inside the pocket still, and the ball comes out at 4 seconds, and you just get to the quarterback the last second, you're still getting a pressure. Did that pressure matter? He had 4 seconds to throw the football. That's eternity. 3.5 seconds is eternity in the NFL. So those are the things that I look at. You know, I don't take things on a face value. I don't look at NFL Pro stats or PFF stats and say, man, dude had 18 pressures today. He's the best ever. No. What happened with those 18 pressures? What was the situation for each one of them? That's what I look at. Nope. CT Squid, I wouldn't be. I've never, ever done that. His leg has nothing to do with it. Honestly. Carrie, what is that? Simchicks? I probably butchered your last name. Carrie S. Prediction, Jared Ivey is going to be elite. Hey, that's a good call. I'm pretty high on Ivey. And if you get him, you know, end of the second, early third round, I think it's great. I think it's great. So Michael Barwick says, I focus too much on size. Joe Thomas was one of the best left tackles of all time, and he was considered to have short arms. Good players are good players. Okay, so I will take your litmus test this way. Michael, how many Joe Thomases are there? How many in the league? I mean, I have all of the best tackles listed, and Joe Thomas is on here. Right? I don't have his arm length. Let's look it up. There's a reason why, and he has 33.8-inch arms. So I don't even know what you're talking about. He's got it recorded right here. His arm length was initially reported at 33.8 inches. Others reported it at 33.25. And what did I say? You know, 33.75. To me, That's the bar to, barrier to entry to be a potential to be a dominant left tackle. You have to start with the arm length. You still have to be a good football player. You still have to know what the hell you're doing. You still have to train. You still have to show up every day. You still have to have the work ethic and everything else that goes into playing football. But we don't know anything about these players right now as rookies besides what they've done on the football field at the combine, at their pro day, what their measurements are, what their agility scores are. That's our start. So if you evaluate a player based on that, you can categorize them, where do they fit in the hierarchy of players from the past? And that is the sheet that I have created. All right, I have my own profile, and so far it's been spitting out some really good information over the last couple of years. So yeah, you have to focus on measurements. You have to focus on agility. You also have to have the eye test and watch the tape. But Joe Thomas didn't have the shortest arms. They were 33 and a quarter at a minimum, and they were reported as long as 33.8. So that puts him, a half of an inch shorter or a quarter of an inch shorter as the elite measurable average for the best to ever do it. But there's a reason why some guys like Alaric Jackson, who has 32 and a half inch arms, there's a reason why he's really good. So he utilizes his deficiency, and now he's probably put that into his footwork, right? Or his balance, or his pad level, or maybe he's a little bit snappier off the snap. Maybe he's a little bit more smart at angles. So you might have a deficiency somewhere, and that's okay. Not every player is perfect, but you have to utilize that deficiency to make something else even better. It's kind of like, I don't even know how to use this as an analogy. This could come off really poorly, but I'm just going to say it. If, let's say you're blind, what do they say about blind people? That their hearing is really good, right? Their other senses are heightened. So when you have something that, for a football player that's deficient, maybe your other senses are heightened. Maybe your other attributes are better. Maybe, the way you study game tape is elite versus a guy that is elite. Maybe he doesn't study game tape as well as you do. Maybe he doesn't know his opponents as well as you do. Maybe that your opponent on second down likes to use a rip and a curl versus a bull rush. And so you're prepared for it. That's why I pay attention to all of it, right? I think that I do a really good job at that. I'm not just putting guys into boxes. They have to earn it. They have to absolutely earn it. So for Hutch, he might have a short arm, but he's utilizing some of his other, his other senses, right? We'll call them senses. The other things that he does, his other intangibles, his other measurables, his other agility scores, they're great. So he's put the work in, and there is no motor that is better than Aiden Hutchinson. The guy is constantly go, 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 go. His work ethic is out of control. So he's utilizing everything he has, and he's making everything else better. So here's what it is. We can always get on. We can always go down these rabbit holes, but we got a new mod today. We got to add. All right, let's welcome Maureen in. Maureen has earned her stripes today. Yeah, I don't know what happened with the echo, dude. I just got it too. So it's already after 10 o'clock. So let's get it done. We'll be done for the day. I appreciate you guys all joining me. I got to figure out what's going on with the PC. So I'm going to have a fun day trying to make sure that these things get fixed. But there it is, Maureen. Welcome in. Maureen. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. I think Eric's back tomorrow. I think he's back tomorrow. If not, it is what it is. We just keep motoring every day. I can't wait to see his new jacket that he got from one of his fans. The thing looked pretty cool. And can't wait to hear what he thinks about all the moves over the weekend. Oh, wait, what moves? We didn't do anything. We didn't do anything. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 o'clock. I'll be back later on today. Tonight we have Mock My Draft number 5. And when I say mock my draft, that means I need you to mock me. Like, you know, it's okay to rip it apart, shred it, tell me I'm wrong. It's all good. That's what we do right now. But my last mock, that's the one where I want to be evaluated to see how many things we get right. And then we're going to go all the way back and look at the beginning to see where things progressed. So, all right, y'all have a wonderful day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to those of you that celebrate. I don't even know. Like back in the day, we used to go to the bar. I don't drink, so I don't even know what to do today other than I don't know. What is there to do on St. Patty's Day? Like it's just another Hallmark holiday, I guess. I don't know. Shamrock Shake. All right, I guess I could do one of those. Maybe we'll go get one of those later. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. Appreciate y'all. Go and probably go to Detroitlions. Smash the subscribe button and the like button on the way out. And let's get some more mini helmets handed out to you guys this week. All right, take care. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.